So for those of you who may not be familiar with Ironite, it has a very catchy name, and it's usually found in the big box stores. You might be able to even get it on Amazon for all I know. And I know it comes in a liquid as well. This is the granular product, Ironite granular. It's mineral supplement from the makers of Pennington. So that the tag says a deeper green lawn without excessive growth. And that's probably true. And then it says water less, retains more water in the soil. I've never seen that on an iron product before, so that kind of caught my attention. I'm like, well, what in the world? They must have something else in there. Initially, the red flag started going off in my head, thinking they probably have, a gypsum or something in this product, or who knows what, or maybe an organic component or something, because it says water retains more water, and there's nothing about iron that's really going to do that, well, at least in any meaningful sense anyway. And then it says contains more iron for deeper green. So the irony in iron is that the lower analysis iron raw materials are the raw materials that you would want to consider for granular applications, not the higher analysis materials. So when it says contains more iron, they're just appealing to the masses, because I think they consider the masses to be ignorant, and they'll buy it because it says more iron, so it must be more green. But in reality, it's the lower analysis iron products. And the reason for that is the higher analysis iron raw materials like iron sucrate, iron oxide, the reason they're high is because they've already been oxidized, and there's a greater concentration of iron in that mineral iron oxide. But those are unavailable. When they're oxide, they've already been oxidized, and there's no more soluble iron in those raw materials. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, scientifically speaking, there's probably some value, some amount of soluble iron, but pragmatically, there's no soluble iron in those oxided forms of iron. So when you get to the lower analysis products like EDTA and DTPA and EDDHA, these chelated iron sources, the reason they're lower analysis is because they've added in a chelating agent that it takes up a large portion of the molecule. And that protects, that large chelated structure protects the iron in it. And even though it's a very low analysis, that source of iron would be the one that you want to consider if you're going to put out a granular. I wouldn't put out any granular iron ever. I wouldn't do that in my own lawn. I've never done it in my own lawn. I never would consider doing it. It would take a ridiculous amount of evidence to convince me that there's any value to applying granular iron compared to foliar iron. It would take a tremendous amount. In fact, I showed you an article yesterday that actually showed a response to granular iron. And that was an extremely unique paper, an extremely unique response to an extremely unique turfgrass deficiency. So it was a very specific case, which generally won't occur in the majority of cases. So it can occur, but for the majority of cases, 99% or more of the cases, you're never going to see that happen. So I would never do it. But when they put on contains more iron for deeper green, I think that they just believe that the masses will believe it, and they'll buy it because it's on the tag. They didn't put it on the bag because they thought it wouldn't sell fertilizer better. They put it on there because they thought it would. So, but it won't. I mean, it might sell more fertilizer, but it's not going to have a deeper green grass from the source of iron in this product. And I'm going to explain why that is. So if we go to the back of the bag, we got to figure out what's in it. This is a 101. I know Ironite comes in other formulas like 100s, and there's obviously liquid Ironite solutions and products. But we have to know what's in this bag before we can really have any confidence in an opinion about it. So when we go to find out what's in the bag, we have to read the label. And I'm going to try to zoom in for the people watching on YouTube to read this, because I thought it was funny. I'm weird. Whenever I was younger, I'd sit out in my grandfather's shop, and he would have fertilizer bags out there, and I would read the back of these fertilizer labels, and figure out like what is ammonium nitrate and what is isobutylene diurea and all these things. And I just was fascinated by the various tags. And so I still do it even today. But I'm going to read the back of this bag, the English version, the back of this bag, so we all understand exactly what we're talking about. I think I can actually zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. So it says, the makers of Pennington products bring you Ironite Mineral Supplement 101, a unique concentration formula that provides a deep green lawn without the excessive growth that some nitrogen-rich fertilizers can cause. A unique concentration formula. We're going to come back to that. I don't know what's unique about this particular product. You can buy this product for probably these raw materials in this blend from basically any blender on earth, at least in the United States. While nitrogen causes greening and growth, iron provides greening without the growth surge, which is probably true. We're going to show some, difference today on that, but for the most part, it's not going to result in a growth surge. So if you want to spend more time enjoying your lush green lawn and less time mowing it, apply this premium iron formula any time of the year to any type of grass to deliver results that truly exceed your expectations. We have enhanced this product with advanced soil technology, trademark AST. That's what starts getting me. When you start saying stuff like that, I just get I could eat this up. I could read this stuff all day long. I love reading propaganda stuff like this. It just makes my day. So what is AST, Advanced Soil Technology? Ironite Mineral Supplement 101 contains advanced soil technology, which provides two key benefits. First, when I was reading this the first time, I thought it would say unlock something. That's what I thought it would say, because usually that's what these uneducated managers and product managers will say. Let's just say it's going to unlock nutrients. That's what I thought it would say, but it doesn't say that. It says, first, it improves the physical characteristics of the soil for maximum performance. So right there immediately, I know this is complete nonsense, because there's no chemical that's going to consistently improve the physical characteristics of your soil unless your soil is under a very specific situation. Okay. And I'm thinking, and now I'm almost 100% convinced that they're talking about gypsum. So whenever someone says they're going to apply this product to improve the physical characteristics, they've been indoctrinated. They don't understand the soil systems very well, and they're saying this simply to sell the product. They don't care whether it's true or not. If it's true, great. It helps them, great. But if it's not true, what do they care? If it's going to sell product, right? So the second benefit, it can help improve water penetration and reduce soil loss. So now I know they're talking about gypsum. And I'm going to get into gypsum when we talk more about soils and soil testing. Gypsum is another product that is unbelievably oversold. Okay, the concept that will improve physical properties is a connection between what we've seen in laboratory studies, where you see the aggregation of clay particles in the presence of gypsum whenever there's a lot of sodium, compared to when there's no gypsum but a lot of sodium. You see that in the lab in a container. But when you go out into the field and actually apply gypsum, you have to, in order for it to have an impact on physical characteristics, you actually have to have a soil that has been degraded or dispersed as a result of sodium. So in other words, the structure of the soil has been broken down or eroded in the soil as a result of excessive gypsum. It's a sodic soil. So basically, for the entire state of Florida, that's never going to happen, because sodium will just go right through that sand soil. In fact, there's been studies down in South Florida where they applied sodium nitrate over and over to build the sodium levels up, and they never had any problems with the turf from sodium nitrate, because it's all sand, and the sand would just, allows that sodium to go right through. There's not the clays necessary in the soil to be dispersed. Okay, so I'll get into all that at some point. But gypsum has basically no value outside of the application or the ability to provide sulfate and sulfate deficient soils, and the ability to remediate sodic soils. Those two are the value to gypsum. And when I see this improved soil physical characteristics, I know this person is just talking nonsense and they're probably talking about gypsum. So, like I said, I could eat this stuff up all day long. Benefits of Ironite Mineral Supplement 101. Contains more iron for a deeper green is number one. So more iron does not equal deeper green, which I've shown you a couple times already, but I'm going to drive that message home in the last 3 papers of this series, which are my papers. A deeper green lawn without excessive growth, it probably will not provide a deeper green lawn, and I'm going to show you why that is. Non-burning and non-staining. That much I can guarantee you. That is true. This product is non-burning and non-staining. That is definitely, let me change this to green, because that is definitely true on this product. This much is true. It will not burn and it will not stain because the source of iron in this product has already been oxidized. You can put out a ton of the iron in this product on your driveway and let it sit there for 10 years and it's not going to stain that driveway. Okay. Children and pets may re-enter the area after application area. Well, that's fine too. Okay. So they get 2 green check marks on their benefits. We're going to see why this benefit here, the non-burning and non-staining, is not actually a benefit. Non-burning and no staining guaranteed. Ironite Minerals contains a special kind of iron. This iron is special. It's totally different than all the other forms of iron that you've ever come across because this is special iron. It will not burn or stain when used as directed. We're so confident you'll love the results of using this product that it comes with a Pennington satisfaction guarantee. I hope after people watch this video that I'm making right now that people use that satisfaction guarantee. Let's see what it is actually. Down here, does it have it has a little asterisk by it. Does it explain what it is? Okay, Pennington satisfaction guaranteed. If after following the instructions, you are not satisfied with the product results, send your name, address, and original date, an original dated receipt to the Pennington refund. So I would highly consider I recommend people to use this because you're not going to see a greening from the iron in this product. You might from the nitrogen, but I'm very, very convinced that the iron in this product is going to do very little. I'm going to do what I can here to explain why I'm convinced of that. It has the directions for use. Goes through and tells you what to apply. Apply as needed every 30 to 60 days throughout the growing season. I don't know. Oh, here's the rates. Rates are 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. I don't know why they'd have a different spread rate from a different spreader, 3.25, but whatever. It says these settings are a guide to determine landscape professionals using Okay. Just talks about spreading. It says it can be used on a wide variety. It really, goes through just whatever typical stuff you'd ever come across. Okay. Note, Ironite Mineral Supplement 101 is intended as a supplement to regular fertilization program and may not by itself provide all the nutrients normally required by crops and other intended plants. So the reason I'm saying that on this one is because they're banking on what's referred to as confirmation bias in the human mind. If you're already applying fertilizer and you already have a fairly decent lawn, which is what they're telling you to do, is intended as a supplement to regular fertilization program. It's not intended to be a regular fertilization program. It's intended to supplement one. So if you already have a regular fertilization program that contains nitrogen and whatever other element you might find that you need, then when you apply this product, in addition to your normal program, you can be convinced that this product is actually resulting in whatever marketing, propaganda they're saying. That's confirmation bias. In other words, you're expecting to see a result from applying this product. So the mind can convince you that you did see it. When in reality, when you're under a normal fertilization program, the chances of you seeing or measuring an actual response to this product is very, very low. Okay. So don't overlook confirmation bias. We're human and everybody's been guilty of it. I can give you a very clear example where I used it as, I used confirmation bias to see if my friend in South Florida would be honest with me, and he wasn't honest with me because he was selling fertilizer to me at the time. This is going back to 2005, I think it was. Anyway, But you can be convinced. It's like, well, I think I see something. It's because you're wanting to see it. You're not necessarily cognizant of it, but you're wanting to see a response, and your mind can convince you that you did see one. And when you're under a normal fertilization program, you can see the grass green. Oh, the grass looks green, and I applied this product. So keep in mind, that's what they're expecting you to apply this with a regular fertilization program. If you didn't have a regular fertilization program and it was say unacceptable turfgrass, and you applied this product, the chances of seeing a response are extremely low. But it does have nitrogen in it. So if you applied it at a high enough rate to apply sufficient amount of nitrogen, say a quarter pound of N to a third pound of N from the nitrogen in this, which would be, oh, where's my calculator? It would be hang on a second, let me get there. 0.25. You'd have to apply 250 pounds. Oh my God. Because it's 1% iron. So you'd have to apply 1,000 pounds if you wanted to apply 1 pound in, obviously. So you'd have to apply 250 pounds of this per 1,000 square feet if you wanted to apply a quarter pound in. So if you did that, you would probably see a response because it's from the nitrogen. But if the grass is unacceptable and you apply this product, it's very likely you won't see anything happen at their labeled rates, which is 3 pounds. Which at 3 pounds, you're applying basically no nitrogen, very little. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind that no matter how intelligent or knowledgeable or smart you are, you can be fooled by confirmation bias. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. Everybody can be fooled by it. But if you're aware that it's a regular occurrence, then perhaps you can use that to protect yourself from losing money, spending money on products that you don't need by being convinced. Oh, did I see something? Just remember, am I being convinced due to confirmation bias, or is there a way I can apply this product that I can remove my bias from the situation? And that's the scientific method, or at least bare minimum controlling something, putting out a non-treated control and then have your product next to it, or some minimum level of control that does not include the human bias. Let's see. Yeah, okay, here it is. So when used as directed, this Ironite mineral supplement provides 0.03 pounds of nitrogen. So basically no nitrogen. Okay, so let's look at the guaranteed analysis of Ironite. So the nitrogen is from urea. Half of it is from polymer-coated urea, which God knows why they would slow release half of 1%, but that's what they say they did. Contains 0.5% slow release nitrogen as polymer-coated urea. Again, I think that they're just doing that to convince people that it's half slow release in, and it might be useful to them. And the other half is just straight urea. Then they have some 1% potassium. And now here's the calcium, 8% calcium, 5% sulfur. So this is where I'm thinking there's calcium sulfate in here. And the iron is 20%. So I can just say this, there's no way to get iron in a bag. I don't even have to look at the derived from statement. There's no way to get iron in a granular fertilizer that contains all these other components, nitrogen, potassium, calcium, sulfur, and have the iron be 20% without using iron oxide. Can't do it. Or iron sucrate, which is iron oxide. You cannot put iron in at that percentage without iron oxide. So I know immediately, without even looking at the derived from statement, at minimum, there's going to be a large component of iron oxide in this fertilizer. There may also be other forms of iron, but there's at least a lot of it from iron oxide, because iron sulfate is 20% iron, which is the soluble form of iron. And this is 20% iron. Well, you can't have 20% iron from iron sulfate and at the same time put more stuff in the ton, because you'd be diluting the 20% down to whatever it would be, 5% or 4% or whatever it would be. Okay. And when you look down here, it says urea, polymer-coated urea, KCl, muriate of potash, and iron oxide, ferric oxide. So all the iron in here is from iron oxide. Rust. Okay. Now, I don't know if they have other fertilizers. This brand Ironite is just a brand. They may have other fertilizers branded as Ironite that have different forms of iron in there. I don't know. But on this particular tag, it says iron oxide. And here it is. Here's our good friend, Mr. Gypsum, calcium sulfate. Okay. That's where this claim comes from up here, where it says AST, Advanced Soil Technology. So the Advanced Soil Technology, which is this gold, for those listening, it's a gold oval AST with the black embossed AST, the gold embossed AST on a black oval stamped, and it's shining gold. It's just gypsum, which is useless if the soil is sufficient with sulfur, or it is not a sodic soil. It's not going to provide any benefit unless you have a sodic soil or unless you're sulfate deficient, okay? But that's the Advanced Soil Technology. So, I mean, this is one, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the whole thing with whatever, but it's difficult for me. I'll go into more of my mental health during Mental Health Awareness Month, which I think is either April or May. I'm going to go into that in more detail. But I've always struggled working for companies that I know are not being honest and I know are being deceptive, or I'm convinced they're being deceptive. I'm not saying that Pennington's doing that, but what I'm saying is that AST, Advanced Soil Technology, being gypsum. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, that's gold. I mean, I've never seen a better marketing ploy for gypsum than this. AST, Advanced Soil Technology. That's great. Just to sell gypsum, just to sell basically an inert product in the blend that will do basically nothing for the great majority of consumers. So that's why I laugh so hard about this label. It was fantastic. I can't get enough of this stuff. So that's it. That's the Ironite. So now why am I saying, let me go down. So why am I convinced, I should say, that ferric oxide or iron oxide is of no value? Okay. So let me go to the internet here, or to this thing I did yesterday. Oops, that's not it. I want to do this one. So this is a slide from the PowerPoint I did on a couple days ago. And in this laboratory setting, this was at the University of Florida. This is in the fertility lab there in McCarty Hall. I wanted to know how much of the iron in raw materials was soluble from the get-go. Forget the soil and oxidation and all that stuff that's going to happen at some point later. How much is soluble from the beginning, from the raw material that just you can hold in your hand? How much of that product contains iron that is soluble? And what we're looking at here, for those who didn't see the previous broadcast, we're looking at a laboratory bench that contains a number of Erlenmeyer flasks, and we have some black styrofoam wrapping around some glass columns. Okay, inside these columns is you can think of like a black powder shotgun, where you're packing in black powder, and then you pack in the slug, or you pack in, whatever you're shooting. Well, in this column, we're packing in the various filters basically to hold it, and then we pack in the actual product that we're going to extract, whatever we're extracting from it. And these are the columns used for slow release nitrogen analysis, but you can also do it for whatever you want to put in there. So we packed in the various iron sources in these columns, and we did iron chelate, iron sulfate, iron humate, iron sucrate, and iron oxide in this particular study. Okay, and when they're packed into these columns, there's a tube that goes in the top of these columns that it pumps warm or hot citric acid. A weak citric acid solution is pumped through from the top of this column down to the bottom, and it's collected into the Erlenmeyer flasks. Okay, and this solution that's being pumped is being heated by this instrument here that's sitting on the lab bench, which is a warming bath, a warming oven, or what do you want to call it. The citric acid solution is constantly being pumped and warmed through this bath. Okay, so makes a long-winded way of saying I'm extracting whatever iron's in these solutions with hot acid. Okay. And these stay on these columns for several days. I think it was 7 days. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's several days we're constantly basically extracting or stripping off anything that's on these fertilizer particles that is soluble. Will be solubilized with this hot acid and collected in the Erlenmeyer flasks. So that's the process. So when we do that for these various iron products, we find that the percent of iron that was extracted from iron chelate was 100%. So we put in 1 gram of iron in iron chelate and we got 1 gram back. For iron sulfate, we put in 1 gram of iron, we got 1 gram back. Let's just use 100 grams in and I got 100 grams back. So all the chelates and the sulfate were 100% soluble using that methodology. The iron humate, which is the river water extractant, only had about 37% soluble iron in it from the beginning. The iron sucrate had about 4 to 5% soluble iron. 95% of iron sucrate was insoluble. Remember, it's iron oxide. The oxide was 99.5% insoluble in hot acid. So there was 0.4 or 0.5% of the iron that was in the column was extracted as soluble iron after several days in a hot acid solution. Okay. So there's no reason to believe that a turfgrass is going to respond to this. Now, we're not even going to the soil oxidation process yet. Okay. We haven't even got to that part yet. Okay. We're talking about the raw material in the fertilizer, which is oxide, ferric oxide, which is what was in the ironite product. So before we even get to the soil, we know 99.5% of the iron in iron oxide is unavailable for any plant use from the beginning. Okay. So that's why the products that contain iron oxide are not going to result in a greening from the iron in the iron oxide. It's not going to happen. Okay. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to get much greening at all from the sulfate, and it's 100% soluble. Okay. I'm going to show you an article here in like I said, a week or two from now on a Wednesday night, where I used iron sulfate in all the studies and never saw a response to granular iron sulfate. And it's 100% soluble in the lab. So you sure as hell ain't going to see a response to iron oxide that's 99% insoluble in the lab. Okay? So I wanted to kind of go over that product, Ironite, because I didn't realize it. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm under the impression that's a very common, very popular product used to green the lawn without growth or whatever. And there's no good reason to believe that it will. Okay. I'm not saying it won't, but I'm saying I'm not convinced by any stretch of the imagination that you're going to see a greening from the application of any product that contains 100% of its iron as iron oxide from the iron. If anything, you would see a response from the other components, like if it had contained nitrogen or maybe phosphorus or something like that. You might see a greening response from those components, but not from iron oxide.